Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Casey Wosu, and today I'm joined with JM8.
Hello.
And today we're actually going to have a pretty newish, informal conversation about a game we both got to preview not too long ago, Splitgate 2 from 1047 Games. Splitgate 2 is a sequel to Splitgate, which was essentially the combination of Halo and Portal put together in like a free-to-play arena shooter to a modicum manner of success, right? Like the last game was pretty popular. Like it was kind of doing its thing in the background for a good while. We got hands-on with the alpha build. So like there's definitely still some room to grow. So we won't be too harsh, I guess, on like what it looks like. But you know, we did get to play two game modes, Hot Zone, which is their take on King of the Hill, as well as regular team deathmatch, teams of 4 in their matchmaking arenas. And I don't know, Jay, what are your initial thoughts on Splitgate 2?
Well, first of all, did you play the first one, Casey?
A little bit. Yeah, I spent, I want to say like a good 2-3-ish hours in it. Early in its days. I did like the concept. I did think it was a little on the needs improvement side, but it seems like they maybe got there down the road when I had stopped playing, because folks did seem to like take to it quite a bit.
Yeah, they had realized that. I'm in the same boat. I've played a little bit of the first one. It felt like it needed a little bit more summit, and this is what they're attempting to do. But I feel like generally the gunplay, it seems very, very similar. It's still very punchy. Still feels very impactful. But I felt like this is something I feel with a lot of games that try to take this kind of Halo route with combat. I feel like a lot of the weapons feel the same.
I can see that. Yeah, they moved to sort of this very light hero shooter style, right? Where like the characters, like you have 3 classes of characters. One is like a real sleek, like they have special ability that makes them like move much faster or whatever. They could put down a time portal thing that speeds up their movement even further. There's one that can do some healing. There's one that can who looks kind of tanky, but they assured that everyone kind of has the same time to kill. But like, yeah, despite that, all of their different weapons do feel like kind of like the same assault rifle,
just with a kind of different skin. And I feel like, to me, that's a bit of a detriment to the game. Even the way that they visually signify these characters, they barely look different. And I know they have different colors, but that doesn't help me. I'm colorblind. So I would find it hard to tell what any of these kind of factions were.
Right, like their silhouettes in the middle of a fight.
Yeah, right? Unless they use their ability. And apart from the shield guys, well, I don't know if you're seeing through walls or, you know, you're running extra fast. Like there wasn't enough of an aesthetic or a mechanical difference for me to take any notice.
It's interesting you bring up the seeing through walls thing, because there's a possibility that could be because of the color blindness. They do the thing where like, you know, the enemy is always red. So like their abilities and stuff will kind of have a red glow or tint. And you do see kind of like a screen kind of propagate outward. And when you get covered by that, that's you essentially being signaled that someone can see you, like through walls.
Yeah.
So that may have been something you missed, probably because of, like the color schemes. Like they have adopted like the real magenta esportsy aesthetic for this game.
In all ways, like having the crowds being
there's like literal like arena stands and stuff. Yeah, and I'm not sure how much I vibe with it. I feel like they're moving into this area to make it more like esports appealing and friendly. Yeah, I can see that.
But because of that, that makes everything very strict. I know it's a Halo thing to have your standard, you know, selection of weapons, but then to have power-ups in the world. But one of the only weapons that I found remotely interesting, which you remembered what it was called like the Splitgate or something.
I think the Slipstream. Yeah, it's like a rifle.
Slipstream, yeah.
That breaks apart at the front, and you have a pistol in one hand and an SMG in the second hand, which is a really cool look.
It's a cool look, but also mechanically, because it stops you being able to use any of your power-ups or portals. So the trade-off was that you had to choose when to split your weapon apart. And that was super interesting. And I really like that dynamic. But throughout our entire time playing, I only got to use that weapon once. And when I can only use the interesting thing one time out of my multiple hours of playing, I can't help but feel a little bit disappointed.
Like I hear 100% what you're saying in regards to like the sameness of a lot of the characters and the weapons, despite them kind of all having different starting loadouts and whatnot. But I do feel like the gunplay at its core is fairly strong. Like
I agree.
Like they adopted that, like you said, that old school Halo style where like you don't necessarily need to aim down sights to get your shots to hit. Movement feels good, even on a controller. Like I was in the arena with you guys on mouse and keyboard, and I was able to hold my own from time to time. So like I do want to commend that level, that like it, like at its core, it is a sound arena shooter experience. But like like all the extra stuff on top that's supposed to set it apart, I do feel like even from the first game, they've started to pull away from it. Like you were talking about how they kind of standardized a lot of the stuff in terms of like surfaces that you can shoot portals at.
Yes.
And that has kind of, unfortunately, left less maneuverability with that mechanic, which is kind of half of what the game is supposed to be. Like your movement a bit, like you don't, none of the characters have movement abilities other than like maybe a hovering jump. Like you get like a bit of a booster pack, which I feel like just makes you a sit and duck in the arena. Like I would have really loved some movement abilities between the different classes to differentiate them, or to make that portal gameplay more important. Like if I shoot a portal to my side and get into a firefight and then can just boost sideways into it to show up somewhere else, I think would be really cool and like a kind of a unique thing that a lot of other shooters don't offer.
Yeah, 100%. I think a huge issue, they explained to us in our kind of briefing the idea of their reasoning for simplifying the portal system, and I agree with it. They wanted to make it a lot simpler and less ambiguous for where you could place portals and how you could place them. Completely agree with that. But when we actually got into the meat of gameplay, there were very few the portal surfaces to actually use, and a lot of the time people would be playing, and I don't want to use the word camping, but strategically placing themselves in angles where there were no portal surfaces to flank or certain choke points. And while we were playing, we were talking about this, and I said how I felt like that takes away from a lot of the fun about what makes this game and the first one so interesting. And we were kind of theorizing on like why, and we know that the devs are trying to move this game in more of an esports friendly, viewer friendly direction. And I think that's to the game's detriment, because they're making things a lot more standardized and fair and less chaotic. But in a way, I feel like that takes away from a lot of the fun. And what do I want as a general consumer? More chaotic portal fun, which is what this game's unique selling point is? Or do I want something that's fair for the competitive market?
Like a sweaty esport. Yeah, like, and that is the balancing act. It's hard to say who stuck with the game the longest, because I'm willing to bet that it probably was more the sweaty esports guys. Yeah. So like, I cannot really fault them for like maybe catering to that crowd. But on that note, in terms of like where the portals, like what they've chosen to do with the portals, you had some notes in regards to the actual level design. Like how did the maps feel outside of, I guess, them limiting like how dynamic you get with the movement thanks to the portals?
The parts that I was enjoying the most, ironically, was the sections of the game where I wasn't using portals. When I was playing it as an arena shooter or like a game similar to Halo, I felt like it felt incredibly polished. The gunplay was great. The navigation felt great. And because of the lack of abundant portal surfaces, or having to stick to a specific type of surface, it forced my brain to think, okay, well, now this is a choke point and this is where people would come from, which is a benefit in one way if you're trying to think strategically, but I feel like it limited a lot of options. So if I saw someone behind a certain pillar or area, I couldn't just think, okay, well, if I portal behind them on this wall and go portal under my feet, which is a very, very common thing you do in games that use portals, namely Portal,
yeah.
You use them to carry your momentum and to solve these puzzles. And I think that could have been a really interesting way to effectively outmaneuver and outflank a lot of other players. But I felt like the level design was forcing the portals to be used as just doors.
Yeah,
and you could open a path, and I'm not sure that, like we spoke about, that might be good for the competitive esports market, but for someone who just wants to basically fling myself across a map and try and rocket launch someone, like to kind of emulate that kind of Quake gameplay.
There were what, 2 maps that we got to play on over the course of the...
Yeah, two I think, or maybe 3, but
maybe 2 or 3. There were, to my knowledge, other than like the introductory video that they had us go through, I don't believe there was a surface that wasn't on just a straight vertical wall. There was no ceilings, no floors. So and I get it, because that was something that I believe was in the first game, to my knowledge, and they were at least diagonal surfaces and stuff, and that could get hectic and confusing when folks would just fly. So but like you said, that is part of the fun, and maybe it's part of the frustration for the the people who get the most out of this. But the time I spent in it was fun. We played during the alpha test, and I had to go back because I lost my footage, so I played some solo afterwards. But I still had fun. I found a weapon combination that I liked and really clicked with. The shooting, I can't understate how good it feels to just run around and shoot in that game.
Agreed.
So that will carry them very far, I feel like. So maybe if they can get that core mechanic to feel more different than everything else, then maybe it will open up to a bigger audience than what they've had in the recent
and I think
past games.
All the criticisms that we both have are things that the developers can very easily work on and tweak. This was an alpha. These criticisms are stuff that the devs can look at and go, okay, well, maybe we should rethink this aspect. Do people gel with this? This is why they're doing these tests. They want us as creators to come in and give them our experience and what we find fun. And at the end of the day, they're trying to create something that is fun for as many people as possible. And I have faith that, in full release, a lot of these issues will be addressed, or they won't, and they'll choose to take it in this kind of esports direction. And then that's their prerogative. And if that's the case, I'll probably not want to play it too much, apart from casually. But I have faith that they'll do what's best for their community.
Yeah, that's the hope. I do hope that the diehards who are coming over from the first game are getting exactly what they wanted. But from what we played, there's definitely some room for improvement to catch me in particular, you as well. But I'd be quick to jump back into whatever they come out, when the beta drops or when the game launches. I definitely will want to jump in there and see what it's looking like. So
follow its journey for sure.
Yeah. But I think that's going to do it for this first sort of quick dive into this preview playtest. Thank you, JM8. It's been great talking to you about Splitgate 2. I've been Casey. Thanks you all for watching. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.